ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्यज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोविष्णुभूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुक्तपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we saw till 17th sloka yesterday, so we will continue from 18th of the second canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Param padam vaishnavam आत्मनन्ति तद् यन्नेति नेतीति अतद् उशिष्षवः विसृज्य दुरात्मयम् अनन्यसौहृदा हृदोपगुह्या हृदोपगुह्यार्ह पदं पदे पदे. So this is the transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know that supreme situation in everything is related with the supreme Lord Vishnu. Um, Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worship the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart. Right? So we saw that people who are envious of the Lord, so they may be advised to focus on the Virata Rupa form of the Lord, and then as a person becomes more cleared of various kinds of apprehensions and envy and things like that towards the Lord, so then he is allowed to perform the devotional service of the Lord. Even for that matter, a yogi, who is like no just a minute. Okay. Even for that matter, a yogi, like who's not fully surrendered to the Lord, so he is attracted only to the he is attracted only to the Paramatma feature of the Lord. So that is like partial understanding of the Lord. Paramatma feature of the Lord means just that, okay, my Lord, you are very great and you're all powerful and things like that. Just give me what I want. So that is the Paramatma level of understanding. And then the Bhagavan level of understanding, the pure devotee, what is talked about here, he is in complete harmony with the Lord. That means he is not having anything separate from the desire of the Lord. So he goes to the Lord saying that, no, all this while I have been asking different things. I wanted to do various things, which is of my choice. Like now, I just want to do things according to your choice. No, he is in complete harmony with the Lord. So all of us know that if there is one center, then it is quite conducive for a clash or conflictless kind of an environment. If there is one center, or if there is one central person like who decides and things like that. So we have an example of if you throw stones in the water and with different centers, so then all the ripples that come, they collide with each other and it will create a kind of a mess out of there. But then if the thrown a stone, if a stone is thrown into the water at one point and then the another stone is thrown at the same very point, and then how many other stones you throw at the same very point, the ripples that come will all be concentric, and then it will not have any collision, right? So in this world, like in this whole creation, so if everyone wanted to have their own different thought process and things like that. So there will be a lot of collision, and that's what is happening in the material world. But in the spiritual consciousness means a consciousness where all of us realign ourselves according to the will and desire of the Supreme Lord, right? So let's see the purport of this. In Bhagavad Gita, Mad Dhamma, my abode, is mentioned in several times. And according to the version of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, there exists the unlimited spiritual sky wherein the planets are called Vaikunthas, or the abode of the Personality of Godhead. In that sky, which is far, far beyond the material sky and its sevenfold coverings, there is no need of the sun or moon, nor is there any necessity of electricity for illumination, because the planets are self-illuminating and more brilliant than the material suns. Pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the absolute personality of God, harmony with the personality of Godhead. And in other words, they always think of Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. Right? So this is a very nice aspect. So the Lord, the devotees, they always depend on the Lord as their only friend and well-wisher. So uh, in one of the sessions of Gita course, we were seeing that different forms of worship. So there is form of worship where out of fear, somebody worships the Lord. There is out of duty, somebody worships the Lord. And like in this way, various things are there. The topmost level of worship is out of love and affection towards the Lord. So here, a devotee of the Lord is not worshipping him because, oh, if I don't worship him, then there will be problem. There will be a lot of no problems that will come in the life and things like that. And also, he is not worried about that. He is more like he is completely in so much of affection for the Lord. No, he is actually worshipping the Lord, and he thinks him to be his friend and well-wisher. So that's a very, very personal and close kind of a relationship that the Lord is having with us. They do not care for any mundane creature up to the status of Brahma, the Lord of universe. Only they can definitely have a clear vision of the Vaikuntha planets. Such pure devotees, being perfectly directed by the Supreme Lord, do not create any artificial perplexities in the matter of transcendental understanding by wasting time and discussing what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, or Maya, or nor do they falsely think of themselves as one with the Lord, or argue that there is no existence of the Lord separately, or that there is no God at all, or that living beings are themselves God, or that when God incarnates himself, he assumes a material body. So these are all various philosophies, that exist in the material world. So Prabhupada is just putting in one sentence all of them. So here we see that the perplexities come when they do not create any artificial perplexities in the matter of transcendental understanding. They don't waste time discussing what is Brahman, what is not Brahman. So this is what the Mayavadis do: Brahma Satya and Jagat Mithya. And for them, this material world is Mithya. It is false, and they have to live here. So they call these two kinds of things like Paramarthik and Vyavaharik dealings. So one is that you are a spirit soul. According to the impersonal philosophy, you are a spirit soul, and then you can merge in the existence of the Brahma Jyoti, the ultimate spirit soul. So then what to do with this world? No, this world is just a false entity. No, it doesn't exist. And this world is a place where we are existing, and then we are able to see things and things like that. But they say that no, it is completely false, Jagat Mithya. And then no, then how do you deal with this world? How do you live in this world? So then they have to bring about various different complex ideas to deal with the problems of this world, right? So that is why the Mayavadis or the impersonalists, it is very, very difficult, this one. But for a devotee of the Lord, what is Brahman or what is the Supreme Lord? Supreme Lord is Lord Sri Krishna. And what about this world? This world is an energy of Krishna. So if it is an energy of Krishna, then it has to be used, and it has to be used in the service of the Lord, and it has some meaning to us. This world has a meaning to us and things like that. So the impersonalist, they just think about, oh, what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and they like keep discussing, wasting their time in that way, and it's a very horrible kind of existence for them, right? So then nor do they falsely think of themselves one with the Lord. So this is another philosophy where we can become the Supreme Lord, or argue that there is no existence of Lord separately. So this is also another thing. So these days, anyway, this is a closed group. I can take names and I can speak about that. So like the modern gurus like Sadhguru and people like that, so they openly say these things, ki, like, no, what is the Lord? Like, no, you, because you're a human being, you have kept a human being God. And like if a buffalo wants, like, no, he will have a buffalo God and things like that and all. Actually, there is no God. And you have to realize that there is nothing apart from you that exists in the whole creation. So this is like completely demoniac. These people are completely demoniac. And people in general, they don't know anything about scriptures, and anybody can who can speak a little flamboyant, and they become so what is that they become respectable in the this one, and they call him as guru also. So what is a guru means a person who teaches what Krishna teaches, and he doesn't have anything to teach with what Krishna teaches. And such people are accepted as gurus. So that's completely bogus and demoniac. Completely demoniac what is happening there. And then um, or that there is no God at all, and that is like atheistic. And or the living being are themselves God, so that again another form of Mayavad. And that when God incarnates himself, he assumes a material body, right? So these are all different ways of diminishing the position of Lord, or skewing up the philosophy of the ultimate philosophy of devotion to the Supreme Lord, right? So all these things can cut down the devotion to the Supreme Lord. Okay, so nor do they concern themselves with many obscure speculative theories, which are in actuality so many stumbling blocks on the path of transcendental understanding. So here it is talked about a devotee of the Lord is not getting caught up with all these things, and they don't get into some obscure speculative theories and things like that. So they don't need to invent any speculative theories, because the Lord has very, very clearly given us things in Bhagavad Gita, and the Lord has he has not left anything unclear to be speculated upon, right? So a devotee of the Lord, he doesn't have any any search for that matter, search for the absolute truth. He has already found the absolute truth, and now he wants to be engaged in the service of the absolute truth. So he's all these other personalities, Mayavadis or different philosophers, they are still in search of truth, and they are still in trying to find out like what could be the what could be the kind of meaning of this whole world and things like that and all. But then a devotee of the Lord, he has come to the understanding, Veda Anta, Veda Anta. So like he has come to the end of the Vedic literatures, and then he has understood it, and then he is engaging in the service of the Lord. So that's a very nice position, that a devotee of the Lord enjoys, right? So okay, apart from the class of impersonalists or non-devotees, there are also classes who pose themselves as devotees of the Lord, but at heart maintain the idea of salvation by becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. They wrongly manufacture their own way of devotional service by opening debauchery and mislead others who are simpletons or debauchees like themselves. So this is another this one. So these people also, like, they act like devotees. They have all the external features like devotees. So they put tilak, they chant the names of the Lord and things like that. But then if you carefully see, they will do all even like all the Devi Devata upasanas also, and sometimes they may even indulge in material things. So this is like there are many people like that who are spoiling the name of devotional service, right? So in the in the name of devotional service, they just do all sort of nonsensical things. So all these non-devotees and debauchees are, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, Duratma, or crooked souls in the dress of Mahatmas, or great souls. So they are crooked souls. They have just taken up the position of like great souls. Such non-devotees and debauchees are completely excluded from the list of transcendentalists by the presentation of this particular verse by Sukadeva Goswami. So the Vaikuntha planets are factually the supreme residential places called Parampadam. The impersonal Brahma Jyoti is also called as Parampadam due to its being the rays of the Vaikuntha planets, or the sun rays are rays of the sun. So like as the sun rays are the rays of the sun. So it is like Vaikunthas are the Parampadam, and its reflection, or the effulgence of the Vaikuntha planets, or in specific the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, is the Brahma Jyoti, and that's why that is also sometimes called as Parampadam. But then actually, if we see what is Parampadam, that is the Supreme Lord, right? So that is Supreme Lord is called as the Parampadam. So that is very nicely mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. It says that Samashhritaye Pada Pallava Plavam Mahat Padam Punya Yesho Murare Bhavambudur Vatsapadam Parampadam Padam Padam Yat Vipadam Natesham. So it is like Samashhritaye Pada Pallava Plavam Mahat Padam Punya Yesho Murare. So like it's very clear that a person who is very much attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord, Samashhritaye Padapallava Plavam. So he's taken complete shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And that lotus feet of the Lord is just like just like a boat that can actually transfer a person from this material world to the spiritual world. And for him, this Bhava Ambudhi, this ocean of material existence, is just like a calf's hoof print. It's just like a very, very small patch of water. He can just very easily cross over that patch of water because he has boarded the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, right? And for such people, who are who have achieved that Parampadam, the lotus feet of the Lord. So for them, this world is not a place for existence, where this world is described as Padam Padam Yat Vipadam. So this is a very nice sloka in which the Padam, the word, the feet, comes so many times, many times, right? So I forgot the count of it. Maybe sometime we can we can actually analyze this sloka. It's a very, very nice sloka. It's very poetic sloka, so which talks about the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So in this way, we can see that the Parampadam is the Supreme Lord, or Supreme Lord's Vaikuntha planet, or the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, that is the Brahma Jyoti. So they are called as Parampadam, right? So in Bhagavad Gita 14:27, it is clearly said that the impersonal Brahma Jyoti rests upon the person of the Lord. Brahmanohi Pratishta Aham. So that's what is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. And because everything rests on the Brahma Jyoti directly and indirectly, everything is generated from the Lord. Everything rests on him. And after annihilation, everything is merged in him only, right? So this is this one. So the Lord is a creator of everything, and is some creation outside of him? No, all the creation is resting on him. So that is why Arjuna actually glorify Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. So Param Dhamma means like the Lord is the resting place of everything that exists. So he is Param Dhamma. So everything rests on him. Parabrahma, Paramdhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So, he mentions of all these various qualities of Krishna. So when when we see the universal form of the Lord, so we can understand that the Lord is the one who's the ultimate space that exists, and then he's the ultimate resting place of everything that exists. So he's the creator of everything, and in him everything rests upon. And after the annihilation, everything is merged in him only. So annihilation means the material world. So in the spiritual world, there is no concept of annihilation. The soul also doesn't get annihilated. So whenever this concept of annihilation comes, that means it is material world. So this all this earth, water, fire, air, ether, all the material elements, everything gets merged in him, and then in the next creation again he unleashes his energy of material nature, right? So therefore nothing is independent of him. A pure devotee of the Lord no longer wastes valuable time in discriminating the Brahman from non-Brahman, because he knows perfectly well that Lord Parabrahman, by his Brahman energy, is interwoven in everything, and thus everything is locked upon by a devotee as the proper looked upon by a devotee as the property of the Lord, right? So for a devotee of the Lord, anything and everything is okay, because everything is energy of the Lord. So he can remember the Lord in any situation. But for a non-devotee or for a Mayavadi, it is quite difficult. He has to adjust himself, saying that I have to merge in the Brahman, and I am there in a place where it is not Brahman. So I'm there in a Mithya environment, so I have to adjust myself and things like that. So this is something that a devotee is he's at home at all the time, right? So he's not having much of problem in that way. So the devotee tries to engage everything in his service, in the service of the Lord, and does not create perplexities by falsely lording it over the creation of the Lord. He is so faithful thus that he engages himself as well as everything else in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In everything, the devotee sees the Lord, and he sees everything in the Lord. The specific disturbances created by a duratma or crooked soul is due to his maintaining that the transcendental form of the Lord is something material. So, duratmas means like those people who don't accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, and those people who try to profess some other form of the Lord or some other way of perceiving God, or there is no God and things like that. So such people are called crooked souls, or duratma, and they create so many perplexities. All this permutation combination given in this purport is all different kind of people who try to manufacture their own ways of various dharmas, various gods, and they create a lot of complexities. Okay, so text 19. Ittam munis hu paramed vyavastito vijnata drigvirya su suranditashaya swaprani swapraninapidya gudam tato nilam sthaneshu satsu Satsunnamaye Jitaklamaha. Translation. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated, with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the air, life air from one place to another in the six primary places. So this is the this one of the chakras, that is mentioned, and it is when a person actually quits his body, the life air leaves the body. Life air has to leave the body. So generally, the most of the people who are completely materially what is that interested, and their whole consciousness is in the material realm. So generally, their soul, or the life airs would leave the body from the Mooladhara chakra, or the uh, uh, like if I'm correct, no, that's the place of evacuation. So where that's the lowest opening that is there, or that's the lowest place that the life air can pass from. So if a life air passes from there, so that means he is degrading to the lower species of life, right? So this is a yogic process. Again, it is mentioned here. It's nothing to do with the devotional process that we are doing. But then Sukadeva Goswami is explaining all these things because various other people are there situated in that assembly with Parikshit Maharaj. So they are not completely pure devotees of the Lord. So he's explaining all those things. So there are yogis who are doing all these things over there. So Sukadeva Goswami wants to catch everybody's attention and then take them all to the highest platform of devotional service. So he may be discussing all these things in the second canto and a little bit in the third also sometimes. So, but then he will take us to the pure devotional service, and also he will mix the aspects of pure devotional service everywhere, right? So here we see that a yogi, he blocks the opening of the lowest hole by his foot heels, like his asana is in such a way that he blocks the lowest hole in this way. And then slowly he lifts the soul by his meditation to one by one chakras. Like, he's going to lift the soul upwards. And if we if he actually quits the body from the head, from the skull region. If the life air breaks open the skulls, and then it comes from the top of this one, so that means he's a perfected yogi. He can actually go to any destination that he wants, right? So let's see the purport, like how it comes up. So there are many duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman and yet are unable to conquer material desires. In Bhagavad Gita 1854, it is clearly explained that an absolute self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living being and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature, and by his desire to lord it over the resources of the five elements. Right? So, which are, with such a mentality, one is led to believe in the strength of material science, which, with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles, and by such tiny advancements in material science, the false egoist tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all man's tiny endeavors in less than a second. Right? So this, we have a practical experience now. So much of material advancement is there and things like that. But then a tiny virus is like having the whole world in a jolt, right? So it's a very, very we can actually realize this particular statement as of now. So there are so many people who claim themselves to be like spiritualists, but then their consciousness is completely dwelling on matter, which is composed of the five material elements. And by manipulating this matter, they are thinking that they have got some power, and now I can challenge the Supreme Lord. So they should know that the Lord can finish all our tiny endeavors in a matter of second, right? So the well-situated self, uh, or Brahman realized soul, perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman, or personality of Godhead, is the all-powerful Vasudev, and that he, the self-realized living being, is a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. So a self-realized soul, who's Brahman realized soul, that means he knows that Vasudevam Sarvamiti. So he knows the Supreme Lord Vasudev is ultimate, and then I am his part and parcel. And being the part and parcel, I have to cooperate with him. I have to render service to him, right? So such a self-realized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activities of attempting to lord it over material nature. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in faithful devotion to the Lord. Right? So the expert yogi, who has thoroughly practiced the control of the life air by the prescribed method of yoga system, is advised to quit the body as follows. He should plug up the evacuating hole with the heel of the foot, and then progressively move the life air on and on to the six places. That is, after the bottom one, so then after that, the navel, then abdomen, and heart, chest, palate, and eyebrows, and cerebral pit. No, that's the topmost, this one. So controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical, and the practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. In olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalist, for the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in modern days, when the influence of Kali age is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thus, the results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. Right? So this circus is quite difficult to perform, and then and the result is also not that great. So the chanting of the names of the Lord and Bhakti Yoga can give much greater results than this. Okay. Nabhyam stitam hridi adiropya tasmad udana gatyo rashitam nayen munihi tato nusandaya diya manasvi svatkalumulam sanakair naheta. So the meditative devotee should slowly push the life air from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. And he should search out the proper places with intelligence. Right. So this is all the search that is going within the body of a person. Right. So there are 6 circles of movement of the life air, and the intelligent bhakti yogi should search out these places with intelligence and in a meditative mood. Amongst these mentioned above is the Swadhisthana chakra, or the powerhouse of the life air, and above this, just below the abdomen and navel, is Manipuraka chakra. So when the upper space is further searched out, in the heart, one reaches Anahata Chakra, and further up, when the life air is placed at the root of the palate, one reaches Vishuddhi Chakra. This is all different chakras that are there. So this meditation, like generally the yoga classes and all, they talk about these chakras. But then we don't have anything to do with this, because we can just chant the holy name of the Lord, and then we say that, okay, my Lord, like, no, you lift me, like I don't have any qualification or power to go up. So when the Lord does the job, he does the job perfectly. So here is a yogi who's trying to do things on by himself. So when he is trying to do things on himself, he has to be very pakka. He has to take care of so many things, and then even after that, if he misses something, no, he's the responsible person. Like, no, so he's put into responsibility. So in Bhakti Yoga, we put the Lord in the responsible position, and we just simply surrender to the Lord, right? So text 21, Tasmad Bruvor Antaram Unnayeta Niruddha Saptha Yatano Anapekshaha Stitva Muhurthardam Akunta Trishtir Nirbidya Murdhan Vishrijet Param Gata. Thereafter, the Bhakti Yogi should push the life air up between the eyebrows, and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. Purport. The process of giving up all material connections and returning home back to Godhead, the Supreme, is recommended herein. The condition is that one should be completely free from desire for material enjoyment. So this is more important a condition than practically lifting up the life air, as we had mentioned before. Like, we are completely dependent on the Lord, and we practice Bhakti Yoga in that fashion. So this, as Prabhupada mentioned in one of the previous purports, it is a process that is mentioned for the yogis, who were there in the previous ages, and it is not a process for the bhakti yogis. Like, especially in Kali Yuga, definitely this process cannot be done. So here we see that the process of giving up material connections and returning home back to Godhead, the Supreme, is recommended herein. The condition is that one should be completely freed from desires for material enjoyment. So this is our enemy. So one should be completely free from the desire for material enjoyment. As we are advancing in spiritual life, the test is that how much we have conquered the desire for material enjoyment. So if we have taste in chanting the holy names of the Lord, if we have taste in hearing the narrations about the Supreme Lord, so then automatically that means the material enjoyment, the taste for material enjoyment has subsided, right? So there are different grades of material enjoyments in respect to the duration of life and sensual gratification. The highest plane of sensual enjoyment for the longest period of life is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9:20. All are but material enjoyments, and one should be thoroughly convinced that he has no need for such a long duration of life, even in Brahmaloka planet. He must return home back to Godhead and must not be attracted by any amount of material facilities, right? So generally, like who's a qualified person to take up devotional service? A person who's too much affected by the material, too much distressed by the material world. He's not that fit a candidate for no pure devotional service, because no, he is looking for moksha. He is looking for like, how can I get out of this trouble, right? So Srila Rupa Goswami mentions this in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says that a fit candidate for like pure devotional service is a person who's not too much affected by the material, or who's not too much frustrated with the material world, and he's not having too much attachment to the material world. He's completely neutral towards this. No, he doesn't have anything to do with these things, or he's not much affected by the material things. Such a person can make a lot of advancement in pure devotional service. Otherwise, if a person is too much distressed by the material troubles, so then his desire will be towards moksha, and he will be a little bit contaminated by jnana aspect of the devotional service, jnana mishra bhakti, like no, it comes. And then if a person is too much attached to the fruits of his action, and he's too much enamored by the material world, so then he will get into this karma mishra bhakti, or his orientation is not towards pure devotional service. His devotional service is mixed with something, right? So here there are so many different varieties of sense gratification that is available, and Prabhupada is mentioning that from the point of view of long duration of life, that is Brahmaloka is amazing. And then from the point of view of so many different, this one, why do we think that even there are living entities existing in just like insects who will just live for one night, and then they will just die? So a living entity's desire is there that sometimes he's so much frustrated with a long life. He desires that, why not the life be short, and then let me just enjoy and finish it off. So the Lord fulfills such desires. So that is also one kind of material desire, a desire for sense gratification. And there is another kind of desire for sense gratification is a person is frustrated with a short life. Oh, like, no, if I can have a longer span of life, no, it will be very nice. So then, no, we have a span of life up till the life of Brahma. So Brahma's life, we had discussed it many times. It's like, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, like that 1,000 cycles forms one day of Brahma, and then equal size is the one night of Brahma. And we can just imagine like how long 100 years of Brahma would be. So it's quite a long span of life, right? So if we tell this to a depressed person, he will say like, oh, such a horrible life. No, it must be. No, I am already thinking like, when will I quit this body? And then such a long span of life. So he will like an idea where no, you just need to be there for small time, and then you can just quit the body. So he will like that kind of an idea, a depressed person. And a person who has got so much of ambition and so much of what is that? He's enamored by this world. So then he is attracted by the longer span of life. And then this is just one consideration. Time is just one consideration. There is desire for enjoying in different ways. Sometimes if we see like the birds, if we just think that, oh, how nice it will be, like if I can fly up in the air, so then we will have to become birds. And then all the species of life is just it's just an example that we have desired to enjoy the sense gratification in a particular way, and for that a particular species of life is designed. And there are 432,000 different varieties of species are there, and so many different ways we just wanted to exploit this material nature, and we just wanted to have sense gratification in different features, but then nowhere we can be completely satisfied, right? So in Bhagavad Gita 259, it is said that this sort of material detachment is possible to attain when one is acquainted with the supreme association of life. Param drishtva nivartate. One cannot be freed from material attraction unless he has complete understanding of the nature of spiritual life, right? So this is param drishtva nivartate. That means when we get the higher taste, we lose the taste for lower things, right? So the same way, if we have taste for higher things, then automatically we lose taste for lower things. So that is why if we see, all of you know who have come through Gita course and various programs. So first thing, like from the day one, we ask all of you to chant the names of the Lord. So that is this one. So this is the like idea that param drishtva nivartate. So if we can chant the names of the Lord, and if we can hear the glories of the Lord, and then of course in the online programs we don't have prasadam. So like when we have prasadam of the Lord and things like that, so we get a little bit taste, a higher taste, and then we see that okay, what I'm attached to in this material world is not that great. So even a person who is attached, he can slowly understand that no, here is a higher taste, and he can just gradually shift into it, right? So no, we cannot just uh, get rid of the material things completely without getting the higher taste, right? So the propaganda by a certain class of impersonalists that spiritual life is void of all varieties of dangerous propaganda to mislead the living beings into becoming more and more attracted to material enjoyments. As such, persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot have any conception of the Param, the Supreme. They try to stick to the varieties of material enjoyment, although they may flatter themselves as being flatter themselves as being Brahman realized souls. Such less intelligent persons cannot have any conception of the Param as mentioned in this verse, and therefore they cannot reach the Supreme. So there are many people like who want to be spiritual, and there are so many people who, in the name of Sanatana Dharmis, in the name of what is that? They even criticize ISKCON for like telling about only Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no other Devi Devata is to be worshipped as the Supreme and things like that. So sometimes they find it, oh, these people are bogus people. These people are not Sanatana Dharmis. Sanatana Dharmis means like no, anything and everything, it should be accepted as a process of worship. And then and if we see like all their this one is if we carefully analyze these people, they will have a lot of material traits. They will be taking shelter of the material enjoyment, but then they just use the garb of a realized soul or a great personality and things like that, right? So such less intelligent persons cannot have any conception of Param as mentioned in this verse, and therefore they cannot reach the Supreme. The devotees have full knowledge of the spiritual world, the personality of Godhead, and his transcendental association in unlimited spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Here, Akunta Drishtihi is mentioned. Akunta and Vaikuntha, so convey the same import. Kunta means misery, and then no Akunta or Vaikuntha means there is a place where there is no misery. Okay, and only one who has his aim fixed upon the spiritual world and personal association with the Godhead can give up material connections even while living in the material world, right? So Jivan Mukta Sauchyate. So Igayasya Hare Dasya Karmana Manasagira Nikilapi Api Avastasya Jivan Mukta Sauchyate. So a person who is completely engaged in the service of the Lord, he can be considered liberated even in this material, even while present in this material world, because what he has to do in the spiritual world is to render service to the Lord, and that he is already doing in this material world. So he's Jivan Mukta Sauchyate. So he is, though he is living in this body, he is considered to be liberated, right? So okay. So this Param and the Param Dhamma mentioned in several places in Bhagavad Gita are one and the same thing. One who goes to the Param Dhamma does not return to this material world. This freedom is not possible even by reaching the topmost loka of the material world. So that is very clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, A Brahma Bhavana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. So all these places are places of repeated birth and death. So there is no possibility of we settling in any of these places, right? So the life air passes through 7 openings, namely 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Generally, it passes through the mouth at the time of an ordinary man's death. But the yogi, as above mentioned, who controls the life air in his own way, generally releases the life air by puncturing the cerebral hole in the head. The yogi therefore blocks up the above mentioned 7 openings so that the life air will naturally burst forth through the cerebral hole. This is the sure sign of a great devotee's leaving the material connection, right? So these feats are done by great souls, without much of great endeavor, right? So great souls, they pass away in great way, but then they don't need to do all this mechanical circus. So Krishna takes care of all these needs and things like that. So for a yogi especially for a yogi, it is very important. And here it's talking about a great devotee. But in the past, as Prabhupada was mentioning, in the past, there were like powerful personalities like this, and they could do all these things, and still they were great devotees of the Lord.
Prabhuji, we could not hear.
It's not possible, right? Okay, somebody will open up there. Okay. I would request devotees to keep themselves muted. So it is somebody has unmuted themselves. I'm not able to mute also. What happened? I don't know. Okay, anyways, text 22. Yadi prayasyan nripaparameshtyam vaiha yasanam utayad viha. Okay, I'm sorry, like it just got disconnected. So we have another 7 minutes to go. We will, or probably we will stop here. So this is, we will start this shloka from tomorrow, because these shlokas, Prabhupada gives a lot of nice purports, and it's a good time it will take for us to discuss these things. So we will again start tomorrow from where we have left. So thank you very much for your kind attention and participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Hare Krishna. Krishna.